Matthew 6. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray, standing in the synagogues, and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like unto them. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him. After this manner therefore pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahawa, Malakwaka, Taba'a, Rataza, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathanlanawa, Lakam, Kal Yuwam, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawabwat Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawabwati Nawa, Wala'a, Tabaya Nawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Haushai Nawa, Mayan, Rai Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwat, Wahala, Wahatapa Arath, La Iwalamium, Aman.
After this manner therefore pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners when I came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right. And what I want to get into, all right, this morning, morning news and prophecy, is all one big psyop. Okay. It's all one big psyop. And we often, go over what a psyop is on this channel. Okay, which is a psychological operation. All right. And they use it in the military. Well, what we have to understand, all right, that the elites, use these different government entities, okay, different industries to be at war with the people. Okay, Hollywood is a form of covert war against the people. Okay, the government is a form of a covert war against the people. All right, and they play as if they have people's best interests. People look at Hollywood as just entertainment, but it's also a war on the mind. All right, you have these guys that went into Hollywood and they reverted, to Christianity, and they did like a tell-all, and they went into, all right, how the movies are made to be a major psyop. And what does a psyop do? All right, um it alters, okay, your perspective on reality. It alters your perspective on a certain narrative, a certain topic. It tampers with your emotion towards particular things, to where you can be triggered by a word. You see, the psyop is like a one big MK Ultra. It's not as deep as an MK Ultra, but it's has the same effect to a degree. Because MK Ultra goes into pretty much engineering people, all right, normal people, to do horrific things. Okay. And you look at society, people have been engineered to where here it is, we have a culture to where violence, destruction, dysfunction, all right, lewdness is the norm. Well, it took years of psychological warfare to get people to make a deaf culture a normal thing in society, to where people glorify in deaf culture. It's a boast, to be from the most dangerous neighborhood. Okay, it's a boast for women, to destroy and play and scam men. Okay, which is counterproductive one to another. Okay, and to look at Esau Edom as if he's harmless. Okay, but to look at everyone else around you as if they're the problem, they're the source of the problem. Okay, and it all goes back to this man just gradually doing psyops, all right, on people, through the media, through the government, all right, through education, okay, and through propaganda. Okay, so let's go back because it all goes back to a an ancient rivalry between the righteous and the wicked. Now let's go here. Okay, this yeah, let's get this because I got a video I want to go into as well. But let's go here, set the foundation for it because this ultimately goes back to the war between good and evil. Okay, and right now, what we're going to go in, what we have to understand, all right, is this war, okay, that's being waged now. It's called fifth generational warfare, which we'll get that. But let's go into the scriptures. Okay, Genesis 2:7. It says, "And the Lord Yahweh formed, all right, power formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became living soul." And this is dealing with Adam. Okay, so Adam was given that breath. Okay, and what was that breath? All right, meant to do? It was the wisdom. It was the law, statutes, and commandments for Adam to do what? All right, to rule. Okay, in the earth. All right, that's why when you get down to verse 15, um Genesis 2:15, it says, "And the Lord power took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it." So you go here, all right. So Adam was given authority. Okay, he was given that breath because the Lord's getting ready to give him authority, just as we receive this breath in this time because we're coming back, into the authority of as the sons of God. Okay, so you go into this word to keep, to dress and to keep it. All right, which is the Hebrew word shamar. Okay, the Hebrew word shamar. All right, which is to keep, to guard, to observe, to give heed. Okay, it says to keep guard, to keep watch and ward, to protect, to save life. Okay, so Adam was tasked. Okay, he was given this wisdom. All right, the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, to protect and to save life. Okay, because the laws are all about forwarding life. The wisdom of the Most High is all about forwarding life. Okay, matter of fact, real quick, I think there's uh might be Wisdom of Solomon 1:15. Let's see, I pull it up real quick. Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's go here. Because Adam was given, okay, that righteous way. You know, that's how Eve, knew that righteous order. So you go here when you go to Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and 15, it says, "For righteousness is immortal. For righteousness is immortal." Okay, and this is the way that Adam was given. Adam was given the breath of life, that wisdom and righteousness to be immortal. Okay, and let's prove that too when you go to the next chapter in the Wisdom of Solomon. Matter of fact, let me uh, go to the next chapter in the Wisdom of Solomon. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and post this, and then we're gonna segue into the serpent. All right, because remember, this is a age old, all right, rivalry between good and evil. Okay, so you go here to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, okay, in verse 23. I'm gonna copy and paste both of them. We have to understand this narrative, because this has been an ongoing narrative in the earth. Okay, this war, all right, between the godly and the ungodly. All right, Jacob and Esau. Okay, and it all started in the garden. Okay, and what we seen the devil do now, okay, is bring, all right, their wickedness to the forefront. Okay, and make it seem as if this is the way. So you go here, all right. This is the book of the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter what we get? Yeah, 23. All right, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 23 said, "For the Most High created man to be immortal." You see that? Well, we just read in Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 15. Righteousness, okay, is immortal. So what was the breath was righteousness given to Adam for him to be immortal. Okay, for that lineage, the sons of God to be immortal. For the Most High created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity, man. Okay, so Adam was given that breath, all right, to be a mirror of the Most High's righteousness in the earth, to be an image of his eternity, man. Okay, this is what we feel from, all right, and this is what we're getting back to. I said it's going to be perfected. Okay, Adam has been perfected as Yahweh. Okay, now we're walking our path to perfection. All right, so you get this in verse 24. All right, but what happened? It says, Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 24. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. So through envy of the devil, going back to the serpent, which was a man, and that same spirit that was in the serpent was in Cain, and the same spirit that was in Cain was in Esau, which are the biblical Edomites of today that rule the earth. Okay, and this devil he's envious of life. That's why this man has infused death into every sector of society, man. This man has pushed death in every part of society. Okay, anything dealing with life, this man has infused death into it. Breathing, okay, that he poisons the air, the water, the foods. Okay, sex is polluted. Okay, people's mental and psychology are polluted and defiled to where people, all right, delete themselves, man. Okay, so this man see life flourishing under Adam's rulership, and he was envious. All right, and we're gonna get to Genesis 3rd chapter to go into what he did. Okay, he said, nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold on his side do find it, man. So if you, all right, subscribe to this man's doings and his ways, his philosophies, his doctrines, okay, you're prescribing the death. Okay, if you agree with any of this man's philosophies and ways, you're subscribing to death. That's why we have to become new creatures, man. Everything that we did before this truth was off, because it was cultivated by the serpent, by Esau, Edom. Okay, no matter how it felt to our emotions, and we had to do, it was still off. Okay? You see, the truth ain't about surviving. The truth is about life flourishing. In Esau's system, you do things just to survive and get by. Life is supposed to be about abundance. Okay? Not survival mode. All right? So all the shit that we did in survival mode was off because it was cultivated by the serpent. All right? And you in survival mode because what? You're surviving death. You're constantly trying to survive death. Okay, so just because we survived particular things, that doesn't mean that it was on point. It was off, all of it, man. Okay, so going back here, okay, um, let's go to the actual account. I just really want to touch on verse 1. It says, this is Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahweh Hashem Shah power had made. And he said unto the woman, so he came to the woman, all right, which is the weaker vessel. Okay, easily manipulated. All right, it's more easy to manipulate the woman. Okay, because she only her capacity, all right, for logical thinking only goes so far, and it's not a shot to women, but because women have a beautiful order, but when they try to operate above the capacity that they was given, it goes bad. Okay, because a woman is great when she operates in the capacity that the Lord gave her. The woman, all right, is important. The woman's role is vital to nation building, okay, and legacy, okay. And this is what the serpent, all right, corrupted the mind of the woman, all right. Just in this time, the woman's mind, all right, was corrupted and defiled, okay. And then the fall of the nation happened again on another level, man. Okay, and he said unto the woman, yeah, have the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Now, I want to just touch on these two words because we know this account. Okay, he eventually, convinced the woman to partake. Okay, because you go here um, to the word serpent. All right, and you get the root word in the Hebrew, which is nakash. All right. And what does it go into? It says to practice divination, to divine, to observe signs, to learn by experience, to diligently observe, practice fortune telling, okay, to observe the signs of omens, to practice the vision, all right, divination, okay, and this is all witchcraft, man, okay, and the woman, she's more geared towards that spirit of witchcraft, okay, because even though Jake, is into what they into. They're not tapped into the witchcraft like the woman is in this time, man. Okay, but this is what the serpent brought to Eve. All right, he gave her an alternate way of being outside of the righteous way that was given to Adam. Okay, and eventually she brought it to Adam, and Adam, complied. Okay, and it was over with. All right, you go here. What you got? Enchantment. Okay, enchanter. Okay, so the serpent enchanted the woman. Okay, and he came back again. What did Jake say? He spunked again in the 60s with what? Feminism. All right, and the woman was enchanted by the perks of feminism, the way that he packaged it up. Okay, so going back here, um, let's get it says subtile. Yep, let's get the word subtile, which is the Hebrew word or rum, our rum. Okay, you get this word here, our rum. Okay, and you go here, it says subtile, shrewd, crafty, sly, sensible, crafty. Okay, and this man is extremely crafty how he presents wickedness to the earth as if it's an upgrade, an enhancement. Okay, this man knows how to package death as if it's the best thing going. Okay, he knows how to package confusion like it's something deep, you know. You see, and this is how this man runs the earth. All right, and this is that ongoing feud, all right, between righteousness, okay, and wickedness, going all the way back to the garden, and we're seeing it play out now, all right, between the elites of Esau, Edom, Amalek, okay, and the house of David, the prophets that have been raised up in this time. It's that warfare continues, man. Okay, you see, and ultimately, this man wants to keep the sons of God in the most distraught and confused state ever, man. Okay, and he does that through psyops, man, making our people think they have some type of victory. Okay, but they're constantly being separated more and more from their power. Okay, so let's get this real quick. Let's get Sirach 33, and then we'll go into the video. Okay, then this devil, he's coming back with his scientific racism. Which we'll get into that too. Our brothers are. Well, let's go back to the book of Sirach. Okay, 33, and it just goes into their feud. Okay, that was established all the way back in the garden. That's why even in Revelation 12 and 7, where it brings up that old serpent. Okay, let you know that the judgment is going to reach all the way back to the time of the garden until now. Okay, when the devil is judged. This Rock 33 and 10, it says, and all men are found from the ground, and Adam was created of the earth. Okay, so Christians are pushed, everybody comes from Adam, which, all right, that's true. Okay, because through Adam, right, you have the lineage that survived through the floods. All right, Noah and his sons. Noah comes from that lineage of Adam. Okay, so the survivors of the flood do come from the lineage of Adam. Okay, but there's a difference, okay, between those lineages, man. Okay, it says, in much knowledge the Lord have divided them. Okay, so there's a division. It's not one people. There's a division, and made their ways diverse. Okay, and the sons of God, all right, were meant to be the standard of righteousness in the earth. They was diverse from the other nations. Okay, they had a connection to Yahweh Bashim Al Shai that these nations didn't have. That's why you read verse 12. It says, some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them he sanctified and set near himself, man. And he only dealt with Israel in an intimate way. He was only familiar with Israel. Okay? He dealt, all right, with Israel differently than he dealt with the other nations, man. Okay? But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned them out of their places, man. Okay? And ultimately it's going to be Esau, Edom. The serpent, he was cursed. Okay? And brought low for his wickedness. All right? And this going to play this time. Going back to what Isaiah 47, come sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Okay? And we're going to see this man, even though he's built, the Most High said what he's going to throw down. Okay? So ultimately, that curse, all right, is going to fall upon Esau, Edom. Okay? Of being turned out of his places, man. All right? And it says, as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liking him best, man. And how about Shemal Shai is the potter? All right, and he fashioned a vessel of wickedness, which is Esau, Edom, and he fashioned a vessel of honor, which is Jacob, man. And right now, the elect of Jacob, are being fashioned into that vessel for this deliverance, man. Okay, to rule the earth in righteousness, man. Verse 14 says, good is set against evil, and life against death. So the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly, man. And this is the back and forth that we're seeing play out. You see, people think that we're, just mad at the so-called white man because of the civil rights and the transatlantic slave trade. No, man, it goes way, way further back than that. And it's on a deeper level than that, man. Okay, this is a spiritual thing. You see, Esau not right. You see, Jake think that over the time Esau has progressively got more, civilized. He's more understanding and considerate of Jake. No, man, he never been considered you niggas, man. It's all been a psyop, man. Okay. Meanwhile, while he's patting you on the back, okay, he's pushing all these enchantments, all right, to where now you don't even feel safe around your own people because of the enchantments he puts out. Okay. Well, meanwhile, he'll pat you on your back, give you an award, give you niggas an NBA Finals trophy. Okay. Give you niggas a Nobel Peace Prize, and you think that this nigga is warming up to you. No, man. It's a psyops, man. Remember, he's more crafty than east of the field. It's up to than any other nations, man. Okay, and he knows how to play on you niggas' heartstrings. Got niggas punching at the camera, all right, about Trump and the tariff war. Like when did it when how the hell when did niggas get into tariffs, man? Okay, when the hell did the nigga get into tariffs? But now you got niggas punching the screen, screaming at the camera. Okay, all the psyop, man. A tariff has nothing to do with the plight of you Israelites, man. Okay, it says, so look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another, man. Okay, and the devil, when he took off the shackles, off our bodies, he began to shackle our minds. Because when he took the shackles off, Jake began to what? Thrive and prosper. Jake had unity, the men, all right, or skilled men of skill, the women, all right, were women of skill under those men. And Jake, just thriving communities just started to pop up everywhere, man. And what did Esau do? He put shackles on Jake's mind. All right. He took the warfare, all right, to the psychological phase, the spiritual phase. Okay, and Jake had no defense. Okay, the chemical warfare through the crack, and our people had no defense. You see, but now there's a standard lifted up. Now, all right, the Lord is taking the war, all right, the spiritual war to the devil through the prophets, man. All right, this devil is losing. That's why he's finna wild out, okay, and get tacky. Okay, so let's go. I got this video I want to get into. All right. And he's going to go into it, because with latest thing with Trump, bringing these Edomites from Africa as refugees, first class refugees. This is psychological warfare because it's all about Edomite supremacy being forwarded. Okay. Edom being superior. All right. That guy, Nelly Fuller, which he recently died not too long ago, but he used to always have this term called non-white people, because Edomite supremacy is about his superiority in the earth, over the other nations and especially over Jake. Okay, so what we're seeing is these devils really coming to the forefront with their superior because they're getting ready to try to establish a new order. Okay, and then in this new order, there's going to be no back and forth about his superiority. All right, he just wants to make this look. We just better than you niggas, man. We better than all you people. All right, and we're far more better than you niggas, man. Okay, and through these psyops, he has made right our people, some of our people, to fulfill his scientific racism theories, man. The way that he has engineered what you call uh, he has modified the behavior of our people to the point to where they fit scientific racism theories, man. Okay, and he's going to take that all this footage of Jake wilding out. Okay, and now he's going to he's constantly been desensitizing, all right, the masses to Jake. Okay, because he's been agree to go with his move, man. Okay, this is what we in. While niggas is playing, this is where we at, man. Okay, so let's play this. and we'll chime in.
Conspire channel, welcome to today's show. When stories like this come out, people should be able to identify just by the topic of the story that they are being gaslit, that they are being worked, that they are deliberately being divided by manufactured news. And if you haven't heard this story about how Donald Trump has brought in 50 white South Africans who were refugees into.
And one thing about it, you see how hard, they say white, same way they say black. Okay, they put emphasis on those two words. It's psychology, man. Okay, because of what white is associated with, because of what black is associated with. White is associated with innocence, purity, okay, virtue, okay, and black is representing dark, a violent, negative, okay, and they put emphasis, okay, on those two words. You're going to hear these reports, they're going to emphasize on white and black, okay, and ultimately is what there's Jacob and Esau, okay, and it's this way presenting Jake to the world as this negative, just this natural negative, violent, dark people, and he's just naturally innocent and pure and harmless, okay. Even these words, it all goes back to psychology, man, the Psyop.
America, then pay attention, because it's very easy to dissect the news. The news is a simulation. It is scripted. These stories are carried out to manipulate you. It is a tug of war that keeps people divided in the left-right paradigm. When the news actually reveals real stories, like say your neighbor committed a heinous murder, they're not going to continue to report on that story unless they can attach a narrative to it that they can manipulate you with. And of course, we know the main narrative that they've been using on our society over the last decade or so specifically, but even going back to the Civil War and the civil rights movement, is the race war. It's the easiest one for them to use. Divide and conquer. What easier way to divide people than based on how they look? And now we've seen how they've taken it just from skin color to gender, right? Between men and women, the Me Too movement that the government manufactured, that Hollywood carried out, all these actors and producers doing what the Brotherhood told them to do, all bowing down, getting accused of things, not going to court to fight for themselves from accusations from 50 years in the past that they hit on a woman on a movie set. They continue to manufacture the news to keep us divided. And that's how they win this chess game that we're in. White South Africans arriving in America. Now think about all the other crap that we constantly hear every day. What are some of the main stories, right? On the flip side, Donald Trump, who's bringing in white South Africans, and they went out of their way to make sure you knew they were white, because every single news story said dozens of white South Africans coming to America. First.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us.
White South Africans arrive in the U.S. White South Africans granted refugee status. First group of white South Africans arrives. You get the picture yet? They're only putting this there because they want you to know they're white, because what are they doing on the opposite side? They're telling you that they're deporting anyone and everyone who is not white or a citizen. And MAGA buys into this, and so do the Democrats. They buy into this stuff heavily, and they love this, and they don't even realize how worked they're actually being. All of the stuff that they've manufactured with the border crisis, allowing illegals to come over, and then manufactured news stories about how illegals are on college campuses killing young white teenage girls. They have worked everybody into this so deep that it's nearly impossible to pull them out. That's why they can make the titles of these articles so obvious that these people still can't see through it. So what do you get here? You get the story about whites coming in while Donald Trump and his administration aren't allowing other refugees from other countries to seek asylum in America, unless, of course, they're white. And what have we heard about over the last 8 years or so since Donald Trump has become president. Suddenly in America, we have a neo-Nazi movement. All we hear about is white supremacy. If you're a Republican, you're a white supremacist. If you're Christian, you're a white supremacist nationalist. All manufactured by design. The entire neo-Nazi propaganda they've put out there convince Democrats that conservatives believe that white people are the superior race. And of course, this is.
And if you're paying attention, you look at the comment boards, when you see Jake, wilding out on the internet, all right, you see a lot of these Edomites in the comment boards, and they're insulting, they are looking at Jake as less than human. You just go to a TikTok video in which, Lord Will, I got some compilations to put together. But if you go into these TikTok videos of Jake wilding out, the nigger woman loud, and embarrassing her goddamn self everywhere, okay, think she above the law, and you go into the comment board, there's a lot of Edomites on there, okay, and they are looking at Jake as less than human, okay, and this Edomite supremacy, okay, all right, is at the forefront. Okay, these devils are setting the stage to be justified in what they're getting ready to do. Okay, that's why I said that in what's that in if a brother can put that in Luke chapter 19, verse 40 through like 42. Bob Kasha, the brother can post that, because this is what these devils, all right, are on, man. Okay, they're tired of being, Biden was meant to make white privilege seem suppressed. All right, the Biden administration was meant to make what you call white guilt. Okay, well, they're guilty of what they've done, how they established themselves. Okay, that's what Biden was meant to do. Okay, the freaks, the weirdos, to be at the forefront of society, celebrated. Okay, but now with Trump, they're able to throw off, that mask of being politically correct, and now, all right, they're true, all right, the true Edomite nature is coming to the forefront, man. All right, and all you niggas that love Esau, all right, so goddamn much, the Lord is going to show you why we've been called this nigga the devil for decades, beginning with our apostles, and our elders. Okay, he's going to show you for decades why. Okay, he's going to show you why these last few decades we've been telling you that this man was the devil, and this man finna wild out. Okay, the script say he's gonna be like a madman. Okay, what sparing none. Okay, so you go here. Yep, I think verse 43 too, bro. Bob shot. This is the brother GMS prayer. Always hope for elect, the brother Corner Waff. Shalom to all you brothers. Added to the screen. This is Luke 19:41, and it says, "And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, and that he is Yahweh Shai." So as he's coming up on Jerusalem, he's probably seeing Jake, chilling, in their mirth, because Jake, even in captivity, Jake gonna kick it. Okay, this is Luke 19:42. It says, saying, "If thou hadst known, even thou at least, okay, in this day, the thing which belongs unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes." Okay, and Jake has no clue what belongs to their peace, which all the little peace that they have, this convenience and the day for day that they got, this finna be taken away. Okay, the Lord is finna put all out hell on the tribes, man. Okay, and this devil is setting the foundation to be justified in doing what he wants to do, man. He wants to get rid of a lot of Israelites, man. Okay, verse 43, "For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round about and keep thee in on every side." Okay, and that's what the Romans did during the time of 70 AD. Okay, they besieged Jerusalem. Okay, starved Jake out Well, what do you think is going to happen now? When these food trucks start running, what do you think they're going to start running to first? Okay. Now he has the ability to do a digital siege, a digital siege, man. Okay. He knows how to target certain areas, man, where he can just shut all bank cards and EBT down in certain areas, man. Okay. So this devil is gearing up, all right, to make his move on the tribes, man. Okay. And you still got niggas for Trump, and Trump is at the forefront of getting rid of you niggas, man. He already said what he's going to unleash, okay, the police force to protect the innocent civilians from criminals, man. Okay. And who you think is the criminal in his scientific racism? And his pseudoscience, who's the natural born criminal, man? It's you, Jakes. Okay. Read verse 44. It says, "And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation," man. And Jake is ignoring the prophecies, man. And Jake is ignoring the prophets. That's why scriptures say we are not in darkness, okay, as everyone else. We know what time it is, man. We know what the devil is gearing up for. Okay, we know what the scriptures say, man. He shall be like a madman, sparing none, knowing that he had but a short time. But Jake not tapped into that, man. Okay, Jake is trying to become, like I say, expert on terrors. All right, Jake is still, trying to figure out how to be a masculine man, and the nigga woman is just out here, all right, trying to repackage herself because feminism has just ran her value to the ground. So she's trying to figure out how to repackage herself and put herself back on the market. So they caught up in that madness. Meanwhile, this is what this devil is on, man. Okay? He has made Jake a mockery in the earth, something that's worthy of the sword. Okay? And ultimately the Lord allowed that, man, because he wanted a lot of Israelites to get numbered to the sword, as the scriptures say. Well, let's let this play some more.
Has gotten so insane that they could put stories like this out where they say energized neo-Nazis feel their moment has come as Trump changes everything. And people actually believe that those aren't actors who are dressed up like that, standing outside in public, allowing themselves to be photographed. And the psychosis goes so deep for the right, it goes just as deep for the left, right?
So real quick, he'll get these actors, to dress up in that, neo Nazi garb. Okay, have these pictures circulating, and have some of them getting interviewed. And what it does, it incites, all right, the Edomite hatred in these regular Edomites. You see, he knows how to strike a match. See what you see on TV, he's just striking the match, for the masses, man. All right, because he's already drenched the masses with, gasoline. So when you see these particular events and these are clips and these different pictures, all it does is incite, all right, the hatred that's already there. You see, this witchcraft. He knows how to pull out these particular emotions of hatred and violence in people, man. Okay, it's all a show. It's all an act. A lot of these protests, a lot of these interviews from these protests, is all crisis actors, man. Okay, mixed in with people that's sincerely fallen but just lost. Okay, but at the forefront of the narrative, he has these certain actors and plants put in place to incite, okay, the emotions, all right, and draw out hatred and violence and the division amongst the masses, man. Okay, and you have these two narratives always going back and forth, man, and he makes you choose between one of the two, all right, and you just have this extreme, intense hatred for the other side, based off of ideology that doesn't benefit anyone but the agenda of the elites, man. Okay, so let's let it keep playing.
What do we see all the Democrat people out there doing who are white, shaming themselves? White privilege, another manufactured psyop from your government. White privilege is the problem. You have white people out in public saying, I'm the problem because I was born white and I was told 100 years ago that white people were really bad to black people, but it was really actually a specific group of people who were really wicked and bad, who you're not allowed to question or talk about. Who's responsible for all of this? And we'll get into that momentarily. So let me show you the news stories, the emphasis, I should say, on how they're white, how this was speed tracked, how Donald Trump signed this thing, and those people didn't have to wait, and they're murdering those people over there. And because they're white, Donald Trump is saving them and bringing them to America. But what about all the black people in other countries that are under attack and being killed? How come nothing's happening to them? Well, because the news is manufactured. And this is one of the easiest psyops to see through. Look.
Whites.
Should I switch to Monday CRM?
Updating this field is so confusing. The CRM. South Africans arriving as refugees at Durban Airport outside Washington today on a plane chartered by the State Department, a process that usually takes years, greeted by a top-ranking U.S. diplomat.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America.
And this from President Trump.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me.
The president signed an executive order in February calling them victims of unjust racial discrimination from the country's black majority, something the South African government vigorously denies. While today the administration also canceled temporary refugee status for as many as 14,000 Afghans already in the U.S., including many who served alongside the U.S. in the war. All face persecution from the Taliban if they are forced to go back. Veterans groups reacting.
How do American veterans of the war in Afghanistan feel about the way their Afghan interpreters and allies are being treated?
We're pissed off. This is absolutely insane that we would treat people this way.
The welcome for white South Africans also in sharp contrast to another.
So what you have, like in Afghanistan, when America came in and invaded, all right, you have certain, Afghanistan, all right, men, all right, that ally with the American forces, to fight against, the Al Qaeda, which America created the Al Qaeda. Okay, this devil man, goddamn, and see, you watch the news and the man he lies so much, like especially when like this nigga lies so much, like he created all these problems. Okay, he created all Al Qaeda, okay, ISIS. He created all these problems, okay, which he create an uproar in all these different countries in the earth, and the regular people are like, God damn, they got to live there amongst that madness, and they try to find a way or find somewhere that's more stable, okay, and then he just throws them off as refugees, and he, puts hell on them, to get refugee status, okay? But then with these Afghanistan, all right, refugees, they were allies to the American military when they was there, because you don't know the terrain. The Americans didn't know the terrain, so they had locals, okay, that were part of the military, okay, to help the Americans navigate over there in Afghanistan and interpret. Okay, they had interpreters. All right. So after the war, a lot of them came to America because they couldn't stay in Afghanistan. They would be looked at as traitors. Okay. And this nigga will deport them back to Afghanistan. Okay. And all right, they heads gonna roll. Okay. But this how this devil does, man. He looks at everyone outside of him as throwaway. Okay. And he even, does the lower class of his people, the lower and middle class of his people. He look at them as throwaway to preserve, all right, their top percent. Okay, but then he escorts, these whites, all right, South Africans, okay, first class, all right, instant refugee status. Okay, and it's a statement to the world that we're superior than you are. Okay, what happens to the rest of you people? All right, it doesn't happen to us. That's not supposed to happen to us. Okay, if a brother could, I think there's uh Psalms 73, probably a few. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read down on. We'll come back to the video, but let's get this in Psalm 73 real quick. I want to read down on it. All right, this is the book of Psalm, chapter 73. All right. Um, I started at 3. Psalm 73 and 3 said, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men." Okay? So Esau, Edom, he's been given, all right, the earth, as the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, and he's not in trouble as other men. He gets to create all the chaos and violence and war in the earth, but he gets to walk away unscathed. He still, all right, has his privilege. Okay, and he's the source of all the chaos and confusion and war and violence and death in the earth, man. Okay, and this is a statement to the world like, look, our people got privilege globally. Okay, and then it's rumored that those people are not even in distress. And first of all, how the hell did Esau make it way to South Africa, man? God damn. Okay, and there's nothing but South Africa. There was a British colony. Okay, you go into that movie Shaka Zulu, it shows you those Brits coming down there. You know, you see. So this man gets to colonize the earth, okay, and play the victim. All right, he gets to come and just move in on other people's land, okay, set up shop, go to war with them, okay, and play the victim. Okay, this man traveled thousands of miles to colonize a region of the earth. And when those people that have been there, okay, show any type of resistance, they're savages and barbarians, and he's just this innocent white victim. He's just trying to farm. That's all. And this nigga, that's what that nigga Matt Walsh was saying. Okay, how the Native Americans was just killing, innocent white families that was there just farming. Well, nigga, it's always just the innocent white people just farming. Like it's the little house on the prairie. Like you think of Esau, he try to push it as Esau was just trying to come over here and farm. Okay, like they didn't commit any wickedness, man. Okay, so let's go back here to the video.
Order the president signed the day he took office, suspending new refugee admissions for everyone else, including Black Sudanese escaping genocide and Latin Americans fleeing violent gangs.
Move to bring these 50 people to the U.S. also comes with a guarantee by President Trump of refugee status and a path to citizenship.
Now, he claims they are under racial persecution, but the South African government argues otherwise. Our Matthew Torres joins us live at Dulles International Airport, where they arrived roughly 4 hours ago. Matthew, critics say this is unfair to other refugees.
Well, Leslie, that's because months prior, the White House already suspended programs that would have allowed refugees from other countries across the world to resettle here in the U.S. The Deputy Secretary of State claims that this happened because they were unsure of the influx of people coming in were properly vetted in the sake of national security. But why prioritize Afrikaners? That's the big question tonight. WUSA 9 captured the private charter carrying 49 white South Africans arriving at Dulles International Airport around noon.
I want you all to know that you are really welcome
here.
They're the first group granted refugee status by the White House after President Donald Trump signed an executive order in February alleging they face racial persecution.
And they tell quite harrowing stories of the violence that they faced.
Prior to their arrival, Trump repeated claims with no direct evidence that there is a genocide of white South Africans.
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated.
Trump says they're under a government-sponsored race-based discrimination after a new law he believes unfairly allows land seizures based on race. The South African government denies all of his allegations. The new law in question gives the South African government permission to take land without compensation in certain cases as they address disparities caused by the apartheid era. Also known as Afrikaners, the descendants of European settlers benefit economically. While they only make up 7% of the population, they acquire most of the farmland.
It's a big middle finger. I mean,
They only make up 7% of the population, but they have most of the farmland. But somehow they the victim. Oh boy.
honestly, to any immigrants or refugees.
But to fast track what's normally a lengthy process to resettle migrants is sparking outrage. Allowing Afrikaners to move to the U.S. and apply for citizenship comes as the White House suspended refugee resettlement programs in January.
All of these folks who have just come in today have been carefully vetted pursuant to our refugee standards. Whether or not the broader refugee programs for other people around the world will be lifted is still an ongoing consideration.
We've seen people that have been kidnapped, tortured, lives under threat, family members murdered and stuff like that. That's the people that come in as refugees, the real refugees, not this. Even if they were, then go through the same process as other refugees and let the other refugees in.
And in a stunning move, the Episcopal Church announced today that they will not be helping the Afrikaners who just got here through its refugee resettlement ministry, citing a commitment to racial justice and reconciliation. It also announced it will end a partnership with the federal government, which would have allowed them to receive federal grants. Guys?
A lot of folks also wondering what role his ally, Elon Musk, may have played in this as well. Matthew, thank you.
We move towards this whole Donald Trump America first narrative into Democrats looking at it and saying it's not America first, it's whites first, right? America first. And now they're welcoming South Africans. I thought they didn't want refugees here. This is what all the Democrats out there are saying. But they're saying, well, you can come here if you're white. And they're literally pushing this Hitler-type narrative of neo-Nazi white supremacism here in the United States, right? People like this are posting. And of course, this is another telltale sign of the sheeple out there. If you ever go to Twitter and you go and look at what people post, they post these things. You can identify their political affiliation, right? We know we can identify people and what they like to do in the bedroom by how they talk and dress and the color of their hair. We can identify people like this. Look, welcome to America. The American flags, right? Telltale sign it's a conservative because the Democrats will post the Ukraine flag. The smiles and relief on those faces are priceless. May your new lives be filled with love, peace, prosperity, and beauty. God's richest blessings to you all. God, thank you, and please bless America and our president. And these people eat it up and buy it, hook, line, and sinker. And remember, the irony of all this is that these are the same people, the conservatives, who claim that the news is fake. They say fake news, but it's only about stories like if Donald Trump is on trial and they're saying that he's going to go to jail for 50 years. They go, that's fake news, right? But is there a fake news when it comes to, hey, is all this stuff manufactured to keep us divided? Because the oldest motto in the book of war is divide and conquer, right? So we have this story out there deliberately where Donald Trump's he's getting all these whites are being brought in because only whites, right? Only white people, 50 white people are being brought in. And there's nobody there's like, hey, Donald, maybe you should put in some black, maybe we should bring in some people because, this looks really racist for the conservatives. Well, that's part of the game. That's how this game is supposed to look, because while they're doing that, these are the stories that circulate every single day. If you look at the fake scripted news, stories like this: 3 U.S. citizen children, one with cancer, deported to Honduras, right? These are the stories they pull on people's heartstrings with. Family torn apart. Mother and 2 children deported after a traffic stop. 2 other kids left behind. So they're putting the narrative out there that the Trump administration is destroying families. They're removing American citizens from their home, even if they are American citizens, but they're not white. They might be Latino, they might be Mexican, they might be Puerto Rican, they might be from Honduras. This is what they want out there by design. And again, this is part of their manufactured race war. For people out there, they should just be able to say, hey, remember the Black Lives Matter movement? How do people out there think that a movement like that wasn't manufactured by their own government? This was manufactured by the left and the right to divide the people. This isn't organic. People didn't just walk down the road one day and everybody just saw people with a Black Lives Matter sign and then just decided to walk out in the street and join them walking to nowhere, holding up a banner as if anybody actually cared. And they've been manufacturing the race war for as long as time goes. We can go back to Martin Luther King, right? You know, Martin Luther King, the Freemason, he's part of the Bull, the Prince Hall, right? Pictures of him inside of Freemasonic lodges. Well, what's he looked at? He's looked at as the leader of the American civil rights movement, if you actually believe that. And I know people out there will hear that and say, wait a minute. Now you're talking about, it's one thing to talk about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. It's another thing to talk about Martin Luther King. You got to understand, it's all manufactured. And the only reason you believe that people like Martin Luther King are heroes is because you've been trained to believe that. Because you've been taught about it year after year after year in school by design. And now you still hear about it. Now you still hear about holidays devoted to all of these people that we're supposed to.
In school, you know, is a major psyops. You know, their narrative, the narrative that you get from the public school system, okay, is all to prep you for the psyops of society, man. Okay, they tell you who's the hero, they tell you who's the villain. So you have these conceived, all right, ideas about these certain characters and what they represented, and not knowing the truth about it. Okay, so even going back to MLK, he's a Freemason, Black Boule, and he's going to keep going into it. You know, all these things, all right, it's all one big psyop, man. It's the same people that's been pulling the strings, all right, on what the masses are allowed to see, all right, to think, to believe, what to be mad about, you know, what to cheer about. Okay, it's all the same people pulling the same strings, man. All right, these elites, these devils, man. Okay, let's play some more.
Look up to and think made a difference in society when these are all government ops. Martin Luther King is the definition of what COINTELPRO is. When we talk about COINTELPRO, we talk about government infiltration and creation of movements. We all think now about like Alex Jones, right? How he got into Bohemian Grove. He's now the face of conspiracy and truth. This is all done by design. But all these movements that occur, all the movies during the hippie era, these have all been manufactured by your government. Okay, COINTELPRO has their hand in the feminist movement. They have their hand in the anti-Vietnam War protests that went on, and specifically the civil rights and Black Power movements, such as the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King. There are dozens of photographs that show Martin Luther King's allegiance to the Communist Party. There are dozens of things you can look at yourself, including some of the images on the screen. That should tell you that he's a puppet of the Zionists. That's what his job was. There's photos of him with Jacob Rothschild. I'm talking Jacob Rothschild. Now, you don't get near Rothschild without them allowing you to get near them.
So this lets you know this man was a heavy puppet. Okay, he's standing next to a Rothschild, and look how Jacob Rothschild looking at this nigga, man. There's no telling what type of freakism. Diddy wasn't the beginning of freak off. Ain't no telling what type of freakism this nigga has done, man. Okay, but this man has become an idol amongst Jake. Okay, and all he did was integrate Jake, okay, into darkness. Jake was fine when they were segregated, man. Okay, Jake farms was thriving, Jake businesses was thriving, Jake families were thriving. Okay, and now as you post-integration, has it gotten better or worse, man? Extremely worse. Okay, everything is shattered amongst our people, man. Okay, let's go here real quick. And the brother posted get a couple precepts. We go back to it. It was all the psyops, man. MLK was a big psyops. Okay, and then it perverted. Okay, the minds of our people, and what else did MLK teach? You know, pretty much, forgiveness of the so-called white man. You know, that's why our people, are so open arms no matter what the devil does. Okay, MLK played a major part in our people, all right, just being a punching bag for the so-called white man. Okay, so let's go here to Psalms, the 10th chapter. All right, which the brother had posted. Let's go here. I'll read down a little more. Okay, this Psalms 10. Okay, and 4 said, the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts, man. Because with all the free time and resources the devil has, this is what he's up to. There's a constant big psyop on the masses, man. Any way to get people, confused, okay, and they're war with each other, okay, and to rebel against righteousness, man. Okay, all the devil does with his free time, the scriptures say, how they are in their beds, all right, conceiving mischief, and in the morning they practice it because it's in the power of their hand. So his man is in his comfort, his kingdom, and all he does is come up with more wickedness. The scriptures say he can't sleep unless he calls some to fall. Okay, there's nothing righteous about this man. All right, he doesn't care to be. You see. And it said, verse 5, it said, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for his enemies, he puffeth at them. He said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Okay? And these devils think through, the power that the Lord has given them, that they can stop themselves from being in adversity. Like they're above the judgment of the Most High. Okay? And this is how these devils operate in the earth, to the point to where they know they have the chosen people in captivity, but their thing is they're going to keep those people, okay, in captivity, man. Regardless of what the scriptures say. All right, and this is the mind that this is the mindset that the devil is operating in, man. He's an absolute crazy wild man. All right, verse 10, it says, he lieth and he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. All right, because it was a lion, it's a patient hunter. Okay, and once he has you, okay, you're devoured. And this man just patiently hunts the minds of our people, man, and devours them, man. Okay, it says he doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net, and you get this word net. Okay, you get this word net in the Hebrew. Okay, so you get this word net. All right, which is a rashath in the Hebrew, and you go down. It says for catching. All right, it says of leaders leading people to sin is a trap for man. Okay, so MLK was a net that he threw on Jake. Okay, feminism was a net that he threw on the nigga woman. Okay, you see the black exploitation where he glorified, pimps and hoes and drug dealers. That was a net that he threw on the people, on Jake, to lead what? Jake to sin. It was a trap. Okay, well, we see today, your rappers, your entertainer, it's all a trap. Sexy Red is a net through on the young generation of women. Okay, well, the young hoes, all right, because they're far from women. All right. The NBA young boy was a net. That's why you have the young nigga now. These type of niggas are a net through by Esau Edom. Of leaders causing people to err. Okay? And it goes all the way back, man. You know, this guy, he's shoulder to shoulder with a Rothschild, man. So you know he was a major tool that was being used, man. Okay? There's no way you're shoulder to shoulder with a Rothschild if you're not being used, man. Okay? Look at this nigga, man.
You think about personal security, you think about things you say online about a Rothschild or a Gates, you aren't getting within 100 miles of these people without being on somebody's radar who's going to be following you around, even back then. And Martin Luther King wasn't just on Jacob Rothschild's radar. He was given an award by Jacob Rothschild. Maybe at that time, people didn't realize how wicked the Rothschild family was and what the central bank and the Federal Reserve was, but they do now. And they should be looking back and they should be going, you know what? This whole racial thing feels like they've created it themselves to keep us divided from each other. Now, I often have said that for years, and people who are black come over to the channel and they say, you don't understand, we've been persecuted. Well, no, I'm not saying in your own life that a white person hasn't treated you like crap, but the seeds are planted in both sides' minds to treat each other a certain way. It's manufactured behavior. From all the movies you've seen, like Roots, to other movies that show white supremacy. And then
well, it's not manufactured. You know, the hatred is not manufactured. Okay, it was there from the beginning. You know, as we fought in the womb. Okay, so the hatred is natural. Okay, but now on the Trump, they're just expressing it more, but the hatred never left. Okay, and these Edomites, you know, these everyday Edomites, they have a hatred for Jake. But as long as Jake stay over there, out the way, okay, as long as their Edomite privilege and the perks that they got in this society is not hindered, okay, they're not on the prowl for Jake. They're not out there hunting Jake down. Okay, they're just enjoying, their Edomite privilege. But their hatred has always been there. But now, all right, it's being drawn out. Okay, but the hatred is set up from the beginning. That's why we went into that, going back from the garden, into Jacob and Esau until now. The hatred, their rivalry is always going to be there. Okay, until the Lord intervenes and judges, man.
And all this stuff now. Think about when I talk about the tug of war, right? This whole thing they do is a seesaw with the left and the right. They have to do it to both sides. So now we're in like the first time we could possibly remember, at least in our lifetimes, if you've been alive 50, 60 years, where we actually have the white people who are constantly under attack in the media. Oh, white people are bad. Let's put this stuff in the school curriculum that teaches that white people are bad in a white nation, right? You don't think the government did that by design to get white people so angry that they suddenly become more racist without admitting it? Because they're manufacturing the racism. That's what they do. They manufacture hate. And then they come on TV and tell you to love one another. And then they pretend that they love one another. It's just some bad people out there. They're the ones who are controlling and manipulating people's behavior by the stuff that they put out. It's called gaslighting. It's called manipulation 101. And Martin Luther King was involved in the Freemasonic lodges. There's photos of Martin Luther King, even on billboards back in the day, where they would put Martin Luther King up and show that he was in communist training schools, because they used to have schools for training in communism. Martin Luther King was found in attendance. So look back at these other movements, right, over the last couple of years that have caused this racial tension both ways, right? Both ways. They're working both sides. Everyone needs to understand. Okay, I'm in the middle. I don't care what your skin color is. All I want in life is to be left alone. And I want the government to leave us alone. And I hate to see other people's behavior and how they act and how they think, because the government is feeding them propaganda and these people believe it as real. But I personally couldn't care less what your skin color is. I'm sure if you're black, you've dealt with oppression, you've dealt with somebody saying words that offend you. But I also am a believer in a lot of this stuff is manufactured by the government that makes you upset at certain words that are used that hurt your feelings. And so, these are all things that they've created. We're at a point where words are offensive, so offensive that people want people to go to jail over using certain words. I mean, it's all utter insanity. But look at the stuff in the last couple of years and how it's worked on both sides, right? The Trayvon Martin thing. Well, Trayvon Martin, what a coincidence that his father is a high-ranking Freemason, right? I just showed you Martin Luther King, who's a Freemason. Or what about George Floyd? Could have gotten more obvious right on his chest. The Ordo ab Chaos, order through chaos, tattooed on his chest, right? And of course,
Make it up. All right. Trayvon Martin's father is a high Freemason. Okay, that makes sense that Trayvon would have been a sacrifice to start, this divide, amongst, all right, Jacob and Esau, to really put a light on that, let's say, that hatred that's already there. Okay, because they want divide, they want to be a purge, they want people to be at each other's throats, man. They want people to cancel each other out. Okay, because in this new system, there won't be many humans needed, many people needed. He has AI. Okay, he's finna shrink. He's been shrinking the workforce. Okay, so that makes sense. And then with George Floyd, the tattoo order out of chaos, man. Okay, yeah, you're gonna see, man. Like he's gonna go into it, man. Like this is all the psyops, man, and this controls the minds of the people, man. Okay, people are just going crazy about this man that they didn't know. Okay, because he causes fake events to draw out real reactions from the people. Okay, so he scripts these events, but it draws out real reactions. It draws out real emotions. Okay, and then it plays on the psyche of the masses, man. Okay.
The whole story with George Floyd was that Derek Chauvin, or whatever his last name was a police officer that wrongfully attacked him on the streets. And of course, all this stuff got out. Wait a minute. George Floyd was involved in all this other stuff. And they pretended like he was here. Then they showed the Democrats kneeling to ignite the right and get them all angry that why are they kneeling over a black man who was killed, who was a drug dealer and was in pornography and all this other stuff. And they don't honor our soldiers on certain days for the veterans. I mean, and they buy this stuff, and they don't once just stand back and go, I really feel like I'm getting worked here. I really feel like they want me to hate black people, or they want me to hate my neighbor, or they want me to hate anybody who has a different political affiliation. And that's exactly right. Right? So you can even look at the George Floyd thing and you might say, well, I don't get it. What are you going to say? That the cop was in on it? That the cop actually threw his life away and went to jail and did that? These are all actors, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the Fraternal Order of the Police. Hi,
I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big tech.
That's what the police officers are in. How much more obvious can it get? Do you see the logo? Not only is it a pentagram and a circle, which should show you the common theme here with these people being in the occult, but they even show you the Masonic handshake right on their logo, and they don't try to change it. You can even see the black and white checkerboard right inside of the yellow emblem. And of course, the eyeball, the all-seeing eye, right? So you think that police officer really went to jail for his crimes? Or did he take off his mask and he's living as another person now? Because that's what these people do. Whether you believe that they're wearing masks or they're sent to another country to live out their days, one way or the other, they're not in prison and they're not dead and they're not facing any crimes here. The only crime that they're facing is the crime that they're waging on your mind. And they're not going to be persecuted or tried for those crimes. They're going to be rewarded for those crimes. These people are criminals who get away with crimes every day, worse than the ones they simulate on the television. Of course, when we talk about the Fraternal Order of Police, well, who was backed by that Fraternal Order of the Police? Well, Donald Trump was, right? I remember how they took the police and they sided the police with the conservatives, and then the blacks, or Black Lives Matter, are anti what? Well, they're anti-cops, right? Get rid of the police, defund the police. This is all government ops. That's what it is. Does anyone out there actually think for a second? You think these things are happening organically? If this was walking down your development or the road you live on, what are you getting out of your car? I'm going to go out. I'm going to go march with them. Anti-police movement. And nobody's thinking, wait, would it be a good thing to not have the police? I mean, if I need to call 911 in the middle of the night and I don't own a gun and somebody breaks up my home, I'm going to need the police, right? Shouldn't they be looking at this stuff going, this seems awfully manufactured, where we now have a government who is obviously doing this for the digital ID and many other agendas that tie into it. But we know that this is part of the North American Union, the building up in the subconscious of Democrats of white supremacy and neo-Nazi, right? And then the whites all feel like they've been under attack for 4 years because the Democrats in power have been saying, hey, we need to teach kids that white people are bad. And then they see these other white people who are so unhinged and can't think for themselves that they're walking around outside at parades holding up signs that say, I'm white and I'm privileged. And then bowing down to other people of other skin colors because they feel ashamed of their history. And they don't even know if their history is real or not. All they know is what they've been told in the institutions. They don't know what their great-grandfather did 200 years ago. They don't know what happened in the war, really, other than what they were told in history books. And they believe all of it. They believe all of it. They've been told to be ashamed for it, so they're ashamed. The other side believes that they're under attack. So now they're all riled up.
What we have to understand is there's this thing called fifth generational warfare. Okay. And let's go into it. All right. Matter of fact, before we get there, let's get this precept. Okay. And then we'll segue to the definition. All right, because you get this in the book of Exodus chapter 17. All right, and what did the Lord say he will have? All right, Exodus 17. All right, and 16, and it says, and he said, because the Lord have sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay, so these Amalekites, which are at the forefront of these psyops, okay, because it's them in the background that's pulling the strings. The Jacob Rothschild, all right, he's Amalek, all right, but all you seen was Martin Luther King, not knowing that this was the devils waging war on Jake, because Amalek can't go back and forth with the Most High, all right, but he had access to us, that he's able to destroy us. The Lord has allowed the devil, to have his way with us for a time. But this is why the prophets being raised up is vital, because this began the resistance against the enchantments of Esau Edom. Okay? Because how do we war now? As Apostle Paul, all right, goes into 2 Corinthians 10. Okay? The Lord waged, Esau waged a psychological war, and the Lord began a spiritual war against this devil, man. Okay? It said, this is 2 Corinthians 10 and 3 said, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, man. Okay? That's why, we're not here, to just beat up random Edomites, to attack, random Edomites, because that's not the war that we're in. All right? That doesn't affect anything. All right? Beating up, a random Edomite. Okay? No, what's affecting this devil is this, verse 10. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the power, all right, through the Most High, to the pulling down of strongholds, man. Let's get this in the LT. So we're fighting with the weapons of the Spirit, all right, and these are mighty weapons, man, that's causing, all right, this devil to scramble and fast track his new world order. Okay? Because why? When you go here, because we have to understand this man has built an empire based on deceptions and psyops. Okay? Lies, NLT, this 2 Corinthians 10 and 4 said we use the Most High's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. Okay? And this man, all right, has put false arguments as the truth. Okay, you look at what people debate about, is all based on falsehood. Women running around saying they don't need men. Okay, niggas believing in the Big Bang Theory, Darwinism. Okay, niggas saying that Jake was already in America, wasn't no slave trade. Like, all these are just false arguments, man. They go against the narrative of the scriptures, man. Okay, and as we teach, we beginning to undo the lies, man. You know, and it's making this devil hard, all right, to operate. Okay, because Esau can't operate in truth. He needs people to believe his false arguments, man, his lies. Okay, he needs people to believe in scientific racism. Okay, would you go here? Let's get there real quick. We'll get that fifth generational warfare. All right, because what is this? There you go here. All right, fifth generation warfare. All right, it says fifth generation warfare. All right, refers to conflict that primarily uses non-kinetic actions like social engineering, misinformation, and cyber attacks. All right, misinformation is a major one. Okay, let's see. Give us something else. All right, it says often leveraging, all right, emerging technologies like AI is described as a war of information and perception, where the focus shifts from direct military confrontation to manipulating public opinion and undermining an opponent's legitimacy, man, to discredit anything that goes against their lives. They discredit. Okay, they'll call it hate speech and say using emerging technology like AI. Okay, which there's a lot of false, hey, he can do so much falsehood with AI. Okay, it's CGI on a whole nother level. Okay, he can create false events through AI, have people saying things and speaking things, and false narratives. And this is AI. These are not even the real people. Okay, but what does it do? It says a war of information and perception, man. Okay, so this is the warfare that he's waging on the minds of the people, and this is why the scriptures tell us what to keep a helmet of salvation. Okay, which shields us from all these enchantments that has nothing to do with the salvation that we read about in the scriptures, man. Okay, so this man is waging fifth, generational warfare, and when you go into how these devils will rule, all right, and this is from Chat GPT. Okay, when you go here, all right, now this is the elder brother Yashawamba. He asked about Amalek, okay, in the Chat GPT, and it goes into, it says Amalek didn't just attack, they ambushed people. All right, they ambushed when people were tired. A modern Amalekite regime might create endless wars, fear, distractions, or social fatigue to keep people too weak or distracted to resist. Crisis won't be solved, they be manufactured to prolong, to maintain control. Okay, and is this not what we're seeing today? Okay, is this not what we've been seeing? All right, within this man's rulership, endless wars, fear, distraction. There's always a new boogeyman. There's always a new reason to go to war. There's always, this fear of supply shortages, the next, the disease or pestilence. This might be running out, and the terrorists ain't nothing. It's always endless war, fear, and distraction, man, which create what? Societal fatigue. So where people are too weak or distracted to resist what this devil is getting ready to roll out, man, which is this NWO. Okay? You go from there, it's another one. All right. It's like 3 screenshots. All right. It says erosion of identity and meaning. Amalek is said to have attacked the stragglers, those disconnected from the source. All right. Faith, community, and strength, because these devils, they, attacked us on the way as we were trying to get to, the promised land. Said they attacked the stragglers, those that was kind of lagging behind. And what does the devil do in this society? He makes sure people are disconnected through these devices, man. Through faith. People don't have a faith in anything outside of this system. Okay, there's no sense of community anymore in this society like that. Okay, the strength of us is our power, man. Okay, that's why it says in Isaiah 52. If a brother can post that, I don't know if a brother's still on. Isaiah 52 and 1 and 2. All right, Isaiah 52 verses 1 and 2. If a brother can post that, I'm finished reading that. Um, yeah, it says, so under Amalek rule, the world might be geared to disconnect people from their families, which is a very individualistic society. This word independent, people weren't made to be independent one from another. Okay, the Lord meant for us to function as a nation. Okay, now you had your independent, office, and you had your own separate, qualities and interests, but it was for the benefit of everyone. Okay, so in this society, people have been connected from family. Families is gone. You don't even see family reunions anymore. But this whole thing of family is gone. Families are worse than strangers in this society. Okay, because you so familiar with them. Okay, that they can do the most damage to you, man. It said from their roots or heritage, going back to a culture, customs, a standard. You see, as a people, there was a standard that we come from that has been completely severed. Okay, even when you go to that word to degenerate, it goes to pretty much disconnecting from the qualities of your forefathers, man. Okay, it says from purpose or transcendence, man. And no one really it just has a purpose other than pleasing the flesh in this society. Okay? Just that instant validation, man. That's people's main purpose in life. You got people, trying to figure out how to go viral. They dedicated their life to go viral, man. It's not a damn purpose, man. But people have been dumbed down, okay, to the lowest frequency possible, man, under the rule of these Amalekites, man. Amalek. It says everything will be fragmented, culture, faith, gender, tradition, etc. It says not out of liberation, but of disintegration, man. But he puts these things as liberation. You can be whatever gender you want. There's more than two genders. Okay. Well, we've outgrew the old tradition. We're progressing as a people. The old way is outdated. Okay, the traditions of the Bible, those things are outdated. That's why people say, see, there was the Bible times. Well, the Bible is an eternal book. Okay, there's no such thing as the Bible times, as if there's a beginning and the end of the Bible. No, the Bible is forever. And the scriptures say, earth and heaven shall pass away, but my word shall remain. Okay, so we got one more. And this is what the devil, will do. Let's see. Yeah. So this and then when it says 3, says weaponized technology and surveillance. It says the Amalek mentality wouldn't just conquer lands, it would invade minds. Okay, it would invade minds. Okay, that's why when you're arguing, you can get into an argument where it's like you're arguing with the mind of an Edomite. When you try to bring the scriptures to Jake, you're going against Esau's programming that's in the nigga, man. Okay? The argument that you can have with your woman, you're arguing against this man's programming. You know? This is man, he has invaded the minds. That's why as we, teach this word and people are converted, it's like conquering a new mind. It's like conquering land in the spirit. Okay? And the truth is, it's been conquering land in the spirit, man, which is the minds of the elect. The elect is being redeemed out of the power of Esau, Edom. My brother can get that, Colossians 1 and 12 and 13 as well. So the devil has invaded the minds to where anyone that's outside the truth, they'll operate off the programming of Esau, Edom. All right, and that's why they can't see what we see, because they can't get past that programming of Esau. Okay, it says tech will be used to manipulate thought, behavior, and loyalty, not empower humanity. Surveillance will be total, not for safety, but for control. Spiritual warfare meets psychological operations. You see that? Spiritual warfare meets psychological operation, which is psyops, man. All right, and these psyops are spiritual warfare on the masses, man. Okay, and the main target is Jake. You see, but that's why you go here. All right, you go here, and this is the brother GMS prayer always hopeful. Let Isaiah 52 and 1. It says, "Awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem." Okay, and that strength is faith and obedience to Yahweh B'Shem Al Shai. Okay, this is our strength. This connects us to a source. Okay, well, we're not dependent on the devil for information and to be educated. Okay, we're not dependent on the devil. Okay, it's information. We're connected back to the source, man, which is through the scriptures. O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, which is the confusion. Okay, and these psyops are just meant to keep people confused, and they don't care what you believe. They just, as long as you don't believe the truth. Okay, that's why it's all over the place. Okay, there's all these different belief systems, and people have no foundation. It changed by the day, just being tossed to and fro. Okay, and just all confusion, man. But the scriptures, okay, bring the light. It shed the light and bring the truth to everything. Okay, it unveils everything, man. The Lord, gives us, as the Lord give us the eyes to see. Okay, but shake thyself from the dust, which is the confusion. Arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Okay, and this man has put what? Psychological bands on the minds of our people, man. As the chains, came off our bodies. Okay, the devil, use psyops and spiritual warfare to put chains on the minds of our people. Okay, but through Yahweh Shai, those chains have been broken. We've been loose. Okay, that's why I say, what the truth shall set you free. Okay, free from being the victim of the spiritual warfare, man. Okay, when you jump down to this is the brother Prince Young Nazar, Matthew, all right, 13 and 16. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Okay, it's a blessing to be able to see beyond the enchantments and the psyop, man. And that's power. Okay, it's the brother GMS prayer always hopeful. Let Colossians 1 and 12 says, "Giving thanks unto the Father, which have made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light." Okay, see, we're being partakers of the inheritance, the blessings, the promises of the saints, the Israelites, in light, man, in the truth. Okay, You see, this is the saints in light, man. We're not in darkness. The kingdom is not a kingdom of darkness, you know, corruption and deception. No, man, it's light. It's gonna be clarity. We're gonna have a kingdom of clarity, man. Okay, you're gonna have to figure out who running what, and we not gonna have any confusion on what the standard is, what the expectation is, what a man and a woman is. No, the truth is gonna be that the kingdom is gonna be a kingdom of light. It's gonna be a kingdom of clarity, man. Everything's gonna be definite and understood. Ain't gonna be no gray areas. Okay. Verse 13, it says, who have delivered us from the power of darkness and have translated us into the kingdom of his dear son. So we've been delivered out of the power of darkness through this truth, man. Okay, and you see a lot of our people, they're still under the power of darkness, man. Okay, their beliefs and their reasoning is in darkness. Okay, but the Lord has delivered us from the power of darkness, our minds, okay, and has translated us into the kingdom of his dear son, man, kingdom minded, man. A righteous kingdom. Okay. So yeah, that's the point. Just wanted to get into that, just was looking at that video, man. It just made me think, man, it's all psyops. He was breaking particular things down, and it's all one big stage. Okay, it's all one big show. Okay. And it's all to manipulate, all right, the minds of the masses, all right. But through Yahweh Shai, we've outgrown that manipulation, man. Okay, so Lord will, all right, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.